In the beginning, the enemy didn't know us any better than we knew them. If they had understood us properly, maybe the first we would have seen of them would have been orbital strikes. Everything that followed stemmed from that one act of hubris. Colonel Hans Castillo, Earth Unconquered, Volume 1.
All right, welcome back to Terra Invicta, where Battlefleet Terra continues to earn its keep, so to speak. Another 9 alien ships splashed around Earth orbit. Fantastic work. Let me get them back resupplied, and then we'll talk about our plans for this episode. A little time-traveling note here. I did record this episode at the same time as the previous one, so I hadn't read the comments at the time. I've seen a number of people requesting a bit of a pause and a walkthrough of how to structure nations in the late game, how to design warships in the late game. Basically that, how do you reconfigure your Earth and space game to accommodate the phase of the game we're now moving into? I'll start to do a lot of that stuff, like status reports, ship design, our overarching space strategy, next episode. We're closer to probably the 2040s or the earliest stages thereof. But for the moment, let's do the closing days of the 2030s. Okay, welcome back properly to this episode of Terra Invicta, where I just am looking at the moon because it looks like the Resistance actually just destroyed a Protectorate station. There's ongoing fighting around Luna. The Protectorate still has 13 ships. The Resistance has smaller number, but I believe they're considerably better. So there's a constant tussle. Exodus are the clear winners when it comes to defending lunar space. Echo 49 has 23 ships, combat power 292. What is this thing? This is a Flying Dutchman-class battleship. Oh, they're on the burner drive. Interesting. They're still spending, I think, 362 water. Oh, I guess it is fueling a battleship. It's got 20 DV. 28 forward nanotube armor, 3 side, 4 rear. Heavy E-beam battery. Point defense. Oh, AI. It's like, it's got some good ideas, but the reason I'm going, among other things, is the forward weapon on the Flying Dutchman class battleship is an adapted naval 12-inch cannon, as in World War I era battleship caliber. That's the caliber that went on HMS Dreadnought. So, yeah, we're building a 16,000-ton spaceship with a nuclear-powered drive in order to shoot 12-inch shells at people. Power to you, Exodus. What about fleets defending Earth? Then we can talk serious stuff. Oh, there's a lot of fleets around Earth, and there's my capital ship reserve steadily forming up alongside Battlefleet Terra. Looks like we've got a lot of stuff. Interesting. India 1 looks like the largest, and Romeo... What's in Romeo 1? Romeo 1 looks like the small stuff. Artemis torpedoes, 30mm autocannons, ultraviolet arc laser cannons. What's India 1 got? Potomac-class battlecruiser. Heavy rail cannon. 720cm green arc laser. Hey, Initiative, are you in danger of building... It's very expensive, 620 water. Are you in danger of building vaguely functional ships? I mean, this has a torpedo point defense and a big green laser on the front. That's not the worst thing, and it would be orbit bombardment capable. Anyway, objectives for this episode. Let's set economic objectives, offensive military objectives, and go from there. Economically, what do we want to do? It's all tech all the time. On Earth, we want to get the environment scores up so I can focus on other things. In terms of technology, we want proton fusion. I'm researching inertial confinement 4. We want to push to inertial confinement 7 in the background while we grab borane plasma jet torch. This is the engine that pairs with the hybrid 4 reactors I've just researched. This should be the point where we can start building big ships that aren't reliant on those Poseidons that suck all those fissile materials, because building 1 fleet of Poseidons is fine. You start building 2, 3 fleets of Poseidons and flying them everywhere. This 17,000 fissile material I've been saving the entire game, that's going to disappear quickly. We also just want to clear the entire tech tree, because once you do, you get into future technology which are repeatables, and these things are cool. Space science increases your mining cap by 1, and you can repeat that. So we can scale the space economy over the top of the Hydra. Social science is weird territorial claims. We'll get to that when we get to that. Miltech increases military max, not so interested. This one's cool. All human factions that have researched exotics gain exotics in amounts that scale with the number of nanofactories they have constructed. That's really cool. So we can produce our own exotics in a very limited amount. And we're producing more nanofactories, which is why my money's gone negative, because when I get to that point, I'd like as many exotics as possible. Life science extends the lifespan of our counselors 6 months every time. Information science gives all counselors 5 experience points. And energy instantly gives all human nations a month worth of investment points, like a bonus month of production, which can be really, really cool. So that's the economic objective, along with digging ourselves in Saturn. The military objective is twofold. We have a defensive one and we have an offensive one. The defensive one is very simple. Saturn, which has become our accidental, the raid that has become a major distraction, which has become a fortress, is dig in and hold. Battlefleet Titan is up to 97 ships. Let's have a look. And there are more arriving constantly. That's the swarm. Most of these are escorts. A few monitors are being constructed. So that swarm of 97 ships just has to hold off whatever the Hydra are throwing at Saturn. So in 36 days, we have to deal with 17 ships, and then in 73 days, we have to deal with another 11. I think we'll be able to crush these. Yes, they're bringing some nicer vessels. What's the Righteous Concord? Heavy plasma, iridescent star, violet laser cannons. There's nothing here that says I can't swarm it with 100 escorts and monitors. So we crush the alien counteroffensive, we dig in our bases on Titan, and then we suck more and more Hydra resources towards Saturn as we start extracting, as you can see, even just with tier 1 mines and a bunch of them turned off, a shit ton of volatile material, which is what means we can start putting slabs and slabs and slabs of adamantane armor. Coupled with the increase in our metal income, we can armor this next generation of capital ships really heavily, which is great. And with 86,000 water income, all the propellant we could possibly need. Then on the offensive side, if we go over to Mercury, the number of capital ships in this force is increasing. They're only here temporarily. Those Titans and Dreadnoughts are actually meant for offensive operations. Once the final wave finishes and the MEU from Titan gets here in 68 days, they'll group up and then they'll start smashing the alien bases in the asteroid belt. The aliens, if we look at their bases, they have one inner system, the Folia Pavonis. We know this base. It's sucker punched Mercury on multiple occasions. Every time the orbital cycle is correct and the aliens have built enough ships, they try and poke Mercury, either us or another faction. They've got nothing in the middle asteroid belt, and they have 2 bases in the outer asteroid belt. So that's 3 locations we want to try and hit, ideally with our counselor on board, so that we can rip those exotics out. In terms of how much exotics you get, there is a massive difference between nukes give you nothing. Nuking something works really well, but you don't salvage anything. Destroying it means you salvage a little bit. Capturing it with Marines means you salvage more, and then a counselor means you salvage heaps more, like an order of magnitude difference. And I'm not sure what that's meant to represent. I think part of it might be things like the counselor provides coordination and technical expertise, and you're able to, as part of the storming plan, when you kick in the door, expressly stop the Hydra self-destructing valuable equipment and materials and the like. So let's go get those exotics, because we're going to turn those exotics into the next generation of fusion-powered capital ships, and those will ultimately be the ones who have to fight the 2 or 3 offensive efforts we're going to need to really close out this campaign. We'll need to go to Jupiter and then work our way out into the Kuiper Belt slowly, one body at a time. Awesome. The final thing I'll say is that if we are able to clear them out of the asteroid belt, that removes the risks of low-notice attacks, which means we can start disassembling some of the very resource-intensive Orion Drive defensive older vessels that we have, strip all the officers off those, assign them to the new capital ships we're constructing so that we still use those experienced officer personnel, free up some mission control cap, replace them with more efficient fusion-powered defenders in smaller numbers, because we'll have notice if they try and attack Earth, Mars, or Mercury, and thus focus more and more resources, pivot, if you like, towards the stuff that is going to punch out into the outer solar system rather than the stuff that's defending. That's the plan. Let's get to it. This retaliation fleet seemed aimed for, I think, initiative assets around Earth, but let's grab it anyway. Alien Fleet Victor 510, Battlefleet Terra, squash. We'll accept that. Another 2.4 exotics and a bunch of promotions. 10 ships destroyed. And don't think I've forgotten about Earth. We will unify Argentina into the South American Union. And this is actually really useful in a stability sense because Argentina was as a whole lower inequality and had a higher GDP per capita than the South American Union as it currently stood, which actually helps, even though it's larger and has more population, bring down our inequality and bring up our GDP per capita, both of which are useful in changing rest state unrest and also rest state cohesion. What? Really? Okay. Apparently they're sick of their failed attempts to break into Earth orbit, and they've decided to send the Mothership, which got to the Jovian system, reached this station, fully refueled, and now they want to send it to Earth. There'll be a small fleet arriving in 43 days. That's an easy pickup. I'm not sure if that's there for us or someone else, but either way, it's a target for us. And then in 130 days, the Mothership gets here. What I might do, I had these 2 siege coil-equipped dreadnoughts. They were originally going to link up with the ones that are being produced around Mercury. They're Poseidon siege coil dreadnoughts, Rhinos. We might join those into Battlefleet Terra, because throwing the big siege rounds at the Mothership should distract a lot of its lasers. Hopefully get the missiles through. Yeah, I reckon you guys have been diverted to Earth defense duty. That said, this thing is a giant loot pinata. This thing is just made of exotics. So, it'll be a nice bit of loot if we can convert that into the next generation of human warships, as well as the bases around the asteroid belt that Felix will be going after relatively soon, because MEU Titan arrives at Mercury in just over a month. All right, stand by for intercepts around Titan. This is Victor 103 coming in. It's trying to get to Hyperion, so Battlefleet Titan is going to try and grab it just as it arrives in orbit. Then we'll upgrade all these bases on Titan itself that are getting their Tier 3 modules up, which is fantastic. Victor 103 has arrived in low Hyperion orbit. Low Earth orbit is saturated with debris, Kessler syndrome, wreckage from multiple space battles. Debris increases. Well, yes, I have been destroying a shit ton of alien warships. All human factions will have their mission control income reduced by 10% for 3 months. Significant public opinion boost to the Protectorate. Economy's effect is decreased for 12 months. That sucks. Okay. We are way over mission control cap. What we need to do now is shut down a bunch of mines. We're paying 144 overs in order to run mines beyond the mining cap. We're going to turn those off. It's going to throttle us for about, as I said, about 12 months. That is really badly timed. All right, let me turn some mines off, then we'll have a fight around Saturn. The easy way to do it, by the way, was just to take all those Titan bases that are upgraded Tier 3 and get them started on their Tier 3 mining complexes. Big cost in terms of almost, I think, 6,000, 7,000 metal to do those upgrades. We'll now give them power infrastructure and all the other stuff that they need, seeing as it seems like we're staying for the long term. That shuts them down until they finish upgrading in February 2039, at which point we'll get shit tons of volatiles and everything from them, but gets us back under the mission control cap in the interim. We can lower this by another 32 if we need, but yeah, oof. What I might do then is go through and do a design for each of these Titan bases that is meant to be mission control positive and also cash neutral or positive. So I think a single manufacturing complex should generally be able to pay for, if we put 1 or 2 nanofactories on each of these, 200, 300, 600, it's a lot of metal. We might start with 1 nanofacturing complex on each base, some 1, some 2, because we are now cash negative overall, although I'll shovel some more influence into the United States to help fix that up. And that might be the way we go. All right, let me do some building. All right, I think we have the fight. Battlefleet Titan against Alien Fleet Victor 103. The major threats here are the big stuff, but we have such a numbers advantage that I really, really don't think this is going to be a problem. And we also have time before the next alien ships arrive, so I think we can just empty all of our tubes. Yeah, we're going to have 33.4 days until the next 11 ships arrive. And then we're basically dug in and set. So, yeah. First of all, let's see what the auto-resolve gives us. The one thing is, it looks like it fired a lot of our nukes. I wonder if I can do this without using nukes. Okay, what I've done is loaded into manual combat, swapped out as many of the nuke boats as I can with conventional missile boats and point defense ships. What we will then do is basically allocate missiles. We have a lot of reinforcements which we won't be able to use immediately, but that's okay. I'll allocate, and then I think we should be able to do this using conventional torpedoes only. Okay, torpedoes are going away. Nuclear missile boats are all weapon safe. What we're going to do is fire down to 2 torpedoes, then clear all primaries, which should allow the AI to allocate the rest. Cool, okay, we're going to get some lag because we have just a few torpedoes firing. The game is having to render just a few projectiles. Something tells me that what they're firing back is not going to be enough. And yes, there will be some 40mm firing out as well. I wish we could track double-click follow like the lead Athena torpedo in this formation. Anyway, they're burning. They have plenty of reserve Delta V. So let's view this from the aliens' perspective as that big mass of red contacts comes in. Interesting, they've copied our wall formation. They've tried all sorts of different formations, but now they're doing the same thing we are. They're interlocking point defense in a nice tight wall formation. No, I don't want to view my ship. I want to view this, the Golden Void Sailor. You can see the flankers are all being targeted down the bottom there, as is often the case. There's the point defense ships to worry about here are the Fading Moon class, the Fading Moon cruisers. They have point defense lasers and point defense particles, with particles being absolutely brutal when it comes to protecting against missiles. Let's have a look at the escorts that are having their rendezvous with their missiles shortly. Nice big cloud incoming. Here we go. First hits. Beautiful. Here comes the main formation. All that technology, all those presumptions of superiority, but in the end, numbers count. Welcome to Saturn. All of that I know is still only 0.97 exotics, but I think we made a point and we got a heck of a lot of promotions doing it. Beautiful. 17 alien ships destroyed. Well done, Battlefleet Titan. The 97, soon to be more than 100 ships of Battlefleet Titan. Since we'll want to rendezvous with them as well. Resupply at Hyperion Hold, 1.2 hours, because we just have so many ships in that force now. Yep, Battlefleet Titan now more than 102 vessels. I think Battlefleet Titan can now take whatever they throw at it. Unless they group up the entire alien fleet and throw it all in at once, I think Titan is now pretty secure. We'll build one more wave of escorts, then switch to building bigger stuff because we probably have the luxury of time. We'll upgrade our shipyards. We'll turn this into a proper outpost of humanity. Not an emergency fortress, but a proper outer system base for humanity. The one that, along with Far Home Station, which remember is still relatively close to Jupiter, between Far Home and Saturn, those will be our bases for power projecting. I realise I'm making motions with my hands, drawing lines on maps that you can't see. We'll use those two as our power projection bases to push further out, and if need be, to jump back in. But I'm looking at these alien facilities out here, thinking, even before I crack Jupiter, they might be in the firing line. We're sort of in their rear areas, so maybe a little bit of deep battle wouldn't go amiss.
That's what Paul Tibbet's mother paid for him to look inside an airplane at a local fair. Decades later, he flew the plane that killed 70,000 in Hiroshima. He named it Enola Gay after his mother, all because of that $1. Commissioner Kiran Banerjee.
Kiran, I think you've got some causation logic issues with that statement. Anyway, tick off antimatter weaponry. We won't really be using it. We're now forced into energy science again if we don't want to go exoatmospheric fighters. So we'll delay it as long as we can. Let's go tokamaks. Let's go tokamaks while we continue to work on proton-proton fusion. That'll be here in August. Climate change mitigation September. Inertial confinement 5 due in July. Inertial confinement 7 is going to be the reactor we want. 5 is sort of just a stepping stone, but may as well work on it while we're waiting for proton-proton. The full tech tree for this, by the way. This is the inertial confinement 7 that we want. Just a few technologies required. So we're working on proton-proton. That plus the IC5, which we're researching, gets you IC6, and then you don't need anything other than IC6 and Accelerando, which we already have, to push to IC7. And then it's a casual 1 million research points to get the protium converter torch. 500,000 for IC7, 1 million for protium converter torch. You can probably understand why I've decided to go for hybrid first, because we'll get this Borane plasma jet on 23 June, like in a week or two, and that'll give us a functional fusion engine while we work on the ludicrous fusion engine. Oh, mate, you should give up. You should really give up. Is this them pulling the goalie? I think this is the equivalent of the aliens like attacking with the goalie. So this is one of their reserve fleets. They tend to keep... oh, no, it's not. I thought it was coming from the Kuiper Belt. It's not. So they're sending it from the moon of Ariel. So this is one of their defense fleets that's holding this lovely system over here. It's not a high KPS fleet, which is why I think it's a defense fleet. Like, this thing is not optimized for long distance travel. This Looming Wrath battleship has 5 torpedo bays, a point defense laser, and an orange laser cannon. So it's an older ship because it's got an orange laser. Sorry, that's not the one I want. We want this. Yeah, class defender, diamondoid armor, hybrid confinement 1. This is an old, like, category C reserve local defense battleship, because the orange lasers are inferior to the violets. Torpedoes are still dangerous, but we have plenty of point defense. Yeah, they're desperate. They want to throw us out of Titan really bad, and they're throwing defense fleets at us to get it. It's going to be 600 days before that arrives. Now, on paper, this force has more combat power than our force around Titan. On paper. But the composition's wrong. I mean, to be fair, this one Titan, if we didn't immediately kill it with missiles, which we would, that alien spinal particle cannon, that thing is going to basically ignore the level of armor I have on my ships, which means basically every time it fires, it's going to disable and kill the crew on like one escort. That spinal particle is really dangerous. At 1,000 kilometers. But they only have one of them. And killing one escort every 30 seconds, really impressive. It's the same thing we're trying to do with our UV phasers. But you only have one, and we have a lot of missiles. A note here, I sometimes see posts by people saying, hey, the AI has built a lot of space infrastructure. I'm behind on bases. I'm not sure what to do. I am just steadily in the background farming Servant and Protectorate asteroid bases that they spend the resources to create. And I'm just going around and cleaning them up, basically. Like, when that's finished, that'll be a respectable base. But I don't think 9.9 base is enough for me to keep this asteroid base when I could hand it off. Not super high yields, and yeah. We'll wait for it to finish its shipyard. so that MEU-5 can do a quick refuel before it's on its way, so a quick stop at this asteroid. And then the Spartans are off to, say, knock somewhere else. We need lots of marine bases on Titan, obviously. We need to train our military personnel somewhere. And if we're going to exercise these Xenos, you could even call them demons from the solar system, what better place to train humanity first's future warriors than our new bases on Titan? Meanwhile, in South America, Chile built an army so that Chile can declare war on the United States. Well, sorry, the South American Union and the United States, which unfortunately doesn't increase any cohesion of the South American Union because it was already cohesion 0. But hey, it increases the resting level slightly. We have an unrest problem in South America, but what else is new? We're going to move the Chilean army out of the way. We're going to bring the Americans into Santiago, and that should bring Chile into the South American Union, such as it is. And then once it's consolidated, hopefully the increase in GDP and reduced inequality helps a little bit. But they might even need an advisor for a couple of terms to help bring this number down, because at the moment, this is it's worse than the United States was at the start of the game. The US is now pretty high cohesion. It's 8.5 cohesion. Its rest value is now 3.8. We've almost completely crushed inequality. In fact, I'll have to ease off soon because you start getting diminishing returns below 1, I think. Environment is almost maxed out, which will be fantastic. And then we can get knowledge up to 12 and boost the economy up. The United States coming along well. We might even be able to turn on a little bit of military investment again, get this robotics age military up to a level 6, because in the future Earth that Humanity First envisioned, various countries have their roles. The ROC is clearly generating a lot of our research income. The United States produces a lot of the money, the mission control, and also it's the preeminent military power. This is the second half of the alien force arriving in Titan. They quite rightly brought a Titan, very thematic, lots of particle weapons, but with 109 ships to 11. There was only one way that was going to go. I've got Battlefleet Unity because it doesn't have a set location it's targeting. This is the Ontarios, a flight of rhinos of all the types, merged up with the Marine Expeditionary Unit, the Crayon, and a bunch of Chesty Puller class corvettes, which I realise are incorrectly type classified, which is a problem. This is Battlefleet Unity's 718 Marine combat strength. It's departing Mercury to go hit Stalwart Shield Station, the first of 3 alien bases in the asteroid field. Let's clear them out while they're distracted with Saturn, and then we can start thinking about what the next play is, whether we punch in towards Jupiter or beyond. But first, let's clear the belt.
Who defined the distinction between knowledge by description and knowledge by acquaintance. Soon, so very soon, our understanding of distant worlds will not stem from mere readings and photographs, but instead from walking upon alien soil. Director Khalid Al-Ashgar, Project Exodus press briefing.
For Project Bifrost. So here we are. By the way, Exodus, if we gave them enough time, they might get there. They're researching, I think, Hydra interrogation and interstellar launch facility. Oh, they're doing the launch facility first. This is what they need to launch the Bifrost, and they need to interrogate the Hydra. The only problem is they'll need a lot more exotics, which I don't think they're going to get in any short order. They don't have our plan of going around with Marines and stealing them and ripping the exotic copper wiring out of the walls of alien bases. But this is the big fusion tech. This is the big one. Proton. This is mastered the most energetic fusion reaction possible in the universe that we know of or can conceive of. Proton. Reaction releases its massive energies, pure electromagnetic radiation and electrons. Both of these can be harvested by solid-state collectors, so you don't need steam turbines and all that sort of stuff, then transformed directly into energy. This breakthrough will enable the construction of breathtakingly efficient fusion reactors and will allow humankind to spread its wings like never before. And somehow this is worth a 2% boost to the economy priority. I think these are a little miserly. I think these are, if you're doing proton fusion reactors, we're moving into like a post-scarcity environment for electricity on Earth, not just fixing climate change. I mean, it depends how efficient the reactors are, but we know that they're bloody efficient because the ones we stick in our spaceship are ridiculously powerful and super efficient. This unlocks inertial confinement 6 as a project, which leads the way to 7. We'll go into, let's do antimatter mass production. We are just stalling. Antimatter, Tokamaks will finish. That'll become Z-Pinch, and then someone will do Exo Fighters. We've upgraded all of our stations with layered defense arrays, so when the Exo Fighters start, we'll be ready for the swarm. The biggest issue with Exo Fighters is the AI can use them to harass stations even if you knock them out of orbit. That's fine. We can build layered defense arrays to prevent that. But it also means they gain the ability to spend investment points building them, which means the AI, instead of spending things on economy or knowledge or building up these nations, they're going to be like, oh yeah, we should build Exo Fighters. It's not great. But, it's 2038. They can have their Exo Fighters. We're ready for them. And I need to get into future tech in order to get those sweet, sweet future tech bonuses.
Then more people further, faster. Otherwise, we'll be stuck playing defense forever. And that's just a slow way to lose. Commander Fiona Ayawade, technical briefing.
So this is another type of fusion. The interesting thing about that Fiona quote for the Resistance is that she's briefing the UK space program clearly later in the war. We have a Resistance-dominated United Kingdom. It's been their headquarters through this entire game, so it just lines up really, really well. We're not going to be using Tokamaks because we're already going with something better. Let's do exo-atmospheric fighters. Why not? Let's rip the Band-Aid off. It'll lower the negative for our energy researchers if we're not tripling up. But yeah, I just found it interesting that the European Union has been frozen multilateral the entire game. Germany has absolutely been, Exodus is beating hard. The initiative's been much more spread out. The servants and Protectorate are now increasingly refugees. Protectorate HQ is now pretty much Australia. The servants are a little bit more scattered. We're also sending Marines. MEU-1 is now on its way. In 71 days, we'll arrive at the final mining station that the servants have anywhere in our solar system, which I think is just great. It's a Chesty-Puller Block 4, one of these, 3 units of Spartans, a Deuteron Polywell, twin Deuteron Polywells, total 357 KPS off just a handful of propulsion units. Beautiful, efficient Raider for targets that can't defend themselves, which is pretty much all the Protectorate and servant stations. So Protectorate down to 1 base. Protectorate still have 6. I have Raiders on the way to, I think, 2 of them. So we will reduce them to nothing. Hopefully the Resistance still has... Yeah, the Resistance has plenty of MC capacity spare. So we can hand them off stuff. They're clearly spending their resources. So let's get them more water and volatiles, courtesy of the Surrender Monkeys and the alien-worshipping heretics. Life is good.
The world. That's where we're headed now. But hell, even I know that a dying world isn't really one worth controlling. Chairman Soren van Wyk, Wall Street Journal op-ed. Renewables from Bogeyman to Golden Goose.
And all right, looks like we have motherships around Earth. There it is, the Eternal Concord. As a siege breaker for our station, not a bad ship, but we have a lot of fleet power here to work with. Most importantly, a lot of missiles to work with. So we'll throw it into a regular formation and then get the target allocation going. I'm not going to hide behind the station here. We're not going to hide behind our civilians. Even if there are some military personnel aboard manning that layered defense array, we don't do unarmed stations anymore after the Protectorate betrayal incident. Let's go. Okay, so what we've done is we've got the coils firing off towards the center of the fleet, and then my missiles are allocated primarily to strip away everything that isn't the mothership, but with a healthy allocation against the mothership as well. All I'm really hoping here is those big coils distract some of the lasers, because that mothership is really a laser build. Lots and lots and lots of small lasers, although thankfully for us, not that many dedicated point defense weapons. And it's here, as you can see, that coils can be really complementary with missiles. Although, frankly, given the sheer number of missiles coming out, especially from those Homeland Block 2s, I think we'd be in good shape regardless. I also appreciate the fact their long-range lasers are either going to be soaked up by the coils, being used in point defense mode, or as you can see, they fired against the Homelands, which have pretty decent forward armor. It'd take a very, very chunky laser to cut through the forward armor of a Homeland at this distance, and as you can see, it's just not working. Meanwhile, this is from their view. You can see the first coils and missiles coming in, big, big blob of missiles, and I just don't think they're going to have the point defense density. The way I've set it up is it's meant to, if all goes well, strip away those escorting ships first, to take their point defense off the board, and then concentrate on the mothership from there. I can see Duskwind Corvette is being hit and is destroyed, so that's the flankers. Now the main force, so far holding back the salvo, but as you can see, it's creeping closer and closer and closer, which means the point defense density isn't there. If the blob is getting closer, then your question is there enough blob to sustain that? There is in this case, so we're about to get our first hits. Basically bounces off the mothership's forward armor, to be expected. The other ships though, yeah, not so much. And with those hits, their point defense arrays go offline, and we can start the task, as you see there, of just burrowing through the armor on the mothership. Mixture of coils and a whole bunch of missiles, blasting through that armor, crit after crit. Its defense lasers are no longer firing, and that is a mothership destroyed around Earth. If there was a propaganda moment that we would use to broadcast the idea that, hey, we're at total war, we can win, you'd think that would probably be it. Our fleet, everyone with a telescope on the planet Earth being able to see, 12.1 exotics in our pocket, and the mothership fleet destroyed in low Earth orbit. Meanwhile, we go on the attack. All right, let's go exotic shopping. We have finally reached Stalwart Shield Station. In the belt, I have lost track of how many times this bloody shipyard has helped raid Mercury. Well, here we are with Battle Fleet Unity, a whole bunch of capital ships and a whole bunch of marine ships. What we will do to be very, very careful is we'll start the battle in high wall as normal, and then we'll move the capital ships closer together because I forgot to tag my marine ships as non-combat. It's going to spawn them relatively close to the others, which we don't want. So what we're going to do is spawn with a little less velocity than we normally would, say 200. And then I'm going to hard burn the marine ships back out of the engagement zone along with the Grayon and send the capital phalanx forward. Does mean there might have to be a little bit of time skip later on. And we could technically, if we were desperate, I know I have in my Exodus playthrough, for example, you can absolutely use marine ships for their point defense. All of our marine designs have at the very least a 40mm. But here, these chesty pullers, we really don't need to do that. So we'll do a disengagement burn. There we are. That should get everyone moving at a decent rate of knots backwards. So what should happen is they should now flip. Separation burn from the rest of the force, wonderful. And now it's a capital game. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to use the Ontarios to swap the small guys, and we're going to allocate the rhinos to the bigger stuff. So, one rhino for a cruiser, frigate. Those can all auto-target. Actually, let's put 2 per, and then the rest can auto-target. And then I'm going to make all of these group 1, and we're going to swap these targets basically in sequence. Let's switch these from Guardian to Focus Fire. I should have done that for all of them. Start with the Steel Wind, go from there. Actually, let's start with this guy at top who's doing the sick flips. They've started firing their magnetics. Let's drift into range. There go their torpedoes. Come on, just a little bit more range. Let's switch this to that. Primary target, if not fire at the nearest enemy. That was a misallocation on my part. And as you can see, those lasers will be able to fry those small ships. Shimmering Snow is not looking to be in good shape. Okay, it's now gone. Let's get the Steel Wind. This flanker is way back, so we're not going to worry about him just yet. Fantastic. Golden Plains. The only weak point about these big 960 centimeter phases, UV phases, is one, you need a very big ship to mount them. You need the maximum size nose slot, which is Lancers and Titans only, which means you need a very big drive to push that ship, or you need to accept horrifically low performance. And the other thing, of course, is they are quite exotics hungry. But then again, that's why we're here, isn't it? To use the weapons we built out of exotic materials to capture more exotic materials. The aliens are doing a pretty good job of not getting hit by the siege weapons. But you know what? That is to be somewhat expected. Swamp Valley Mist. That looks like some of his components going. One more volley should do it there. Great. Kill that burning wind. And this, we'll call all the rhinos group 2. Yeah, he took a big hit from a siege coil just there. Bunch of smaller rounds incoming. He's at 900 kilometers of distance and still taking at least some damage through armor. And it'll get much more lethal as we get closer. Oh, he's fending off most of that. As he gets closer, though, it should be pretty damaging. There's the siege coils doing their work. Okay, only the station platforms left. Lasers should be more than enough to clean up. I will do that. And then we'll send in the Marines. I'd call that a successful field test for these capital ships, considering absolutely no damage taken. And unlike missiles, we still have plenty more ammo where that came from. This is the strategic flexibility you get for going up to capitals. And also, even if you switch smaller ships and you go to magnetics and lasers or particle or plasma. I'm not a big fan of plasma, but it's there as well. People find use for it. You obviously still have your magazines full and your offensive potential is still there, whereas a missile ship would have spent their salvo and be done by this point. We can happily hang around, take this target, and move straight on to the next one. You'll also see that against alien battle stations, those 960 centimeter phases with the laser engines have enough punch to kick through them even at pretty much close to maximum range. Alien battle stations have a lot of firepower. What they don't have, strangely enough, is a lot of armor. And phases have a lot of armor penetrating potential as it is. So there we are. We'll clean them up all beyond 900 kilometer mark. And as for those alien ships in the shipyard, too bad, so sad. Hopefully we get exotic salvage from that. 2.4 exotics taken, no damage, magazines full, life is good. Next turn cycle, we'll send in the Marines. Vietnam, center of protectorate power. We've taken the executive so we can strip away its alliances. India is the one that is going to war with Vietnam. Greater India has claims all through this area. We're not going to, because China has very high GDP per capita and a lot of stats, we're not going to drag it back down, the ROC, and we're not going to change the ROC back to the Pan-Asian Cooperative. We're just going to keep it the ROC, keep it grinding, whereas India has a lot more to gain from absorbing a country which has a 15,000 per person GDP per capita, higher education level, etc. And it can also filter through the inequality. It can handle it. So we'll absorb Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia from the protectorate and servants into Greater India. And if the servants ever take Myanmar or Bangladesh, which they might do now that they're going to be under their control point cap, we'd absolutely go after them and create a Greater India spanning all the way from the border of Pakistan down here to the former borders of Vietnam.
Ringing. You think only of the minor threat at the time I quashed it, and not of the insurmountable threat it would have become had I not. Colonel Hans Castile, during the war crimes trial.
So Hans has a very interesting past. Network Global Defense is now done, which unlocks a few things. Again, a technology I would generally prefer to avoid. because targeted biological warfare really only has the purpose of giving you singleton viruses. And singleton viruses is a tech which gives you +4 on assassinate missions. I don't like it because we're already good enough at shooting people. Erica can murder whoever she wants. And this is going to give the AI access to a +4 bonus. So it might be worth going around some of our Earth counselors. And even though I wouldn't normally, especially the ones we can't hide, like Talus, slapping a couple extra points into security, just to make those assassinate missions harder, and just in case the AI decides, you know what, I kind of do want to, research singleton viruses rather than everything else that I need technologically. Servants have to learn their purpose. The Protectorate has a mission to build the Sentinels. That's a bit of a spoiler right there, but good luck, Kieran, given you are now out of water and negative on water. You are negative on volatiles. You still have boost, I'll give you that, but we'll take away the rest of your bases and see how you go. Judith is Judith is negative on water, negative on volatiles. We've got a negative on metal and nobles, negative on everything, really. So it's really just the fleet that's eating things up at this point. We'll take away the rest of the boost, good to go. She is down to 77 control points used and 477 research. So sucks to be them. The resistance is in better shape. We've got more bases that we need to give them. Exodus is doing great, won't give them anything. It's the resistance that needs the help. Exodus is at 222 mission control used. If we weren't doing the job, they'd be doing okay. But we are miles ahead, as it should be. Felix, by the way, already scored us 25 exotics. Let's send him in to clear the ground base.
On the ready line, Marines.
On the ready line, Marines. Let's go. Spartans, what is your bloody profession? Let's go. And here comes Battlefleet Unity to clear out the station and the defending fleet. Given the numbers, I'm not even going to trust the auto-resolve. We'll do this manually. What we're going to do is put our main ships, our Ontarios and the supporting Rhinos in the center. We're going to burn the Marine ships away so they don't get stuck in the fight. They've got the Delta V to spare. It's just my fault that I didn't classify them as troop transportation, which gets them stuck in the fight. But we'll burn them away and then we'll let that phalanx of capital ships advance. I then just get the firing modes right on these Ontarios to make sure that they're firing preferably at their primary targets, but if they don't have a primary target, they shoot at whatever they can. So we're not wasting any firepower. We get the control groups established so we can direct our siege coils. Everyone is on padlock. Targets are assigned, and we are good to go. So the first things to start firing will probably be the siege coils. You can see the Marine ships turning and burning. Combat vessels advancing to get this done. Now, at maximum distance, when you look at this from the aliens' perspective, the first things you see will probably be the UV phases, even if the first things being fired are going to be our siege coils. You can see the aliens trying to control the velocity, the relative velocity of the merge here by changing which direction they're burning and how hard. But one of the strangest things to happen in this fight is the aliens uses their flanker, their Titan. I presume because it has DV and a bunch of weapons. But as you can see, the Immaculate Fury burns off to the side to try and get underneath us. So we priority target a whole bunch of crap at it, burn straight through the side armor with all those UV phases, and just rip the thing apart. Now, I see what they were trying to do here, but the fact is, we have the weapons to make this work now. And if you expose side armor, you're just going to get wrecked. Similarly now, we've got all these little flankers off to the side. They're pretty much, no, they're not at max distance. They're about the 800 kilometer mark. Which does mean they won't take a huge amount of damage, but we will be able to kill them. Golden Moon is now pretty close to destruction. There you go. So it takes a couple of volleys with these weapons at this distance, but we are getting the job done. Meanwhile, I've got the siege coils mostly still focused in the direction of the main force to keep it busy, but some of the coils are coming down this way just to give them something to think about, but mostly I'm going to be relying on the phases here. As for their magnetics, you can see sailing back in the other direction. The Ontarios have so much point defense phaser capacity, I really don't care. The only thing that threatens me from the aliens in this kind of setup in these quantities is really, really big lasers and especially particle and plasma. Not even really plasma. I'm mostly worried about alien particle. Can't see much of it. So what I do is I look at the main fleet and I can see, they're burning away from me to try and control velocity. So I take advantage of them exposing rear armor to try and get some laser hits in, while also keeping an eye on the flankers to see whoever's not facing front armor gets priority for the Ontarios. I wish I had more of them, but I don't. To try and pick off and get the numbers going my way as soon as possible. The good thing about the aliens flanking in this way is in order for their violet lasers to do significant damage, they'd have to get very close. And as you can see, their chance of doing that, especially when they have to burn to adjust their velocity, if you're wondering what they're doing, it's not getting killed by the magnetics. They have to burn, and as you can see, they are successfully dodging those coil guns. And once again, you can see weapon synergy coming into play. The coil guns can be dodged, but in dodging the coil guns, they make themselves vulnerable to the lasers. The coil guns also do a pretty good job of soaking up the enemy's lasers, which means when we turn our ships to engage flankers and expose our side armor to their main force, we're less vulnerable because their lasers are busy, stopping them dying from, you guessed it, the coils. So as a late game weapon combination, the coil laser combination, there are other things you can do. And in a future playthrough, I'm going to play a lot with particles, maybe a little bit with plasma. But coil, phaser, that combination, you really can't go wrong. There's a lot of ways to use it. This is the wall sort of combination, and it works fairly well. I'm showing it off not just because it's fairly reliable, but also because it's fairly new player friendly. Understanding how to bring a bunch of laser ships and a bunch of coil ships, stick them together into a wall, and then fling metal at the opponent to distract them, and then use lasers to pick off anything that's not pointing their front at you. I think that's a fairly intuitive concept, and it works really, really well, even against larger alien fleets. Now, slightly harder situation. The aliens are now not going to show us their rear or their side, but this is where the coils really get to shine. We'll fling sieges at them, and if they don't maneuver, they die to siege coils, and if they do maneuver, they're going to die to the lasers. In this case, as I'm designating, I'm not really getting much punch with the phasers through the forward, but I am getting the siege coils and regular coils out. You can see the ships coming back from pointing at the flankers. We're now going to readdress our prow weapons at the main force. A lot of 40mm going out to help intercept that incoming magnetic. Realistically, the phaser PD will probably catch anything the 40 doesn't, but I imagine it makes the crews feel better to be slinging 40mm slugs out regardless. 40mm is just really good as a countermeasure to enemy magnetic weapons. It's also a fantastic countermeasure to a functional frame rate, but you know what? It is what it is. DACA is DACA. The one thing that is coming in, as you can see, plasma, but that's what your armor is for. Your forward armor exists to stop two things primarily, plasma and lasers. It's also useful against particle, but we're not facing much particle yet, which is good. Your armor is not there to stop missiles and magnetics. That's what your point defense is there to do. The armor is there to stop the things that your PD can't. That's laser, that's plasma, and here it's doing a pretty good job. Now, as they get closer, as you can see, they are doing dodge attempts to not die to the coils, so I just keep an eye on it, and whenever I see ships that are burning in order to try and avoid death by siege coil, I just make sure the Ontarios know, hey, that ship is showing you its drive plume. How about you shove a phaser up it? And as you can see, since the aliens come from the same school of ship design that we do in a sense, in that they do not armor their aft anywhere near as much as their prow, it's an opportunity for the phasers, even at 850 kilometers distance, to shine. Beautiful. It's another valley. The valley wind is about to go pop, I think. There we go. Really, really weaken the fleet at this point. And as you can see, not many ships are actually dying to the coils. It's maneuvering to avoid death by coil that is proving to be incredibly lethal. Realistically, though, I feel like the Ontario crews should give the Rhinos at least partial credit, should give them an assist, because if it wasn't for the coils, the aliens wouldn't be maneuvering the same way. So it really is a team effort. The real trick will now be to design ships that don't just combine this level of firepower, because I like this basic mission package, 960cm ultraviolet phaser with coil. It's now getting the technology necessary to design a ship which can take that mission package, that weapon set, and at high speed take it into the outer solar system. So basically we're looking for better drives at this point. The weapons aren't going to get much better. They're about as good as they're going to get. We could do mild upgrades by spending more exotics on the coil ships. The phaser ships are already as good as they are, as good as they can be offensively. As you can see, that's probably good enough. It's really just getting the rest of the ship performing as intended. Anyway, at this point, the ships are basically done for. We've destroyed the vast majority of them. Coils are coming in for the big guys. As you can see, it takes a lot of lasers to burn away at those big coil rounds, and there's always more where that came from. So we burn away the last of the ships, and then hopefully we can just drift towards the battle stations, where once again, the phases should be MVPs. As they get closer, as you can see, the hail of coils gets even more intense, because now the smaller batteries can engage as well. They have a firing distance of, I think, about 700 kilometers. The enemy is now within that, so it's not just siege coils, it's the smaller stuff too, at which point you really are stuffed. You're not going to dodge them, which means the ships go bye-bye. We get into range of the battle stations, and the battle stations, for all their firepower, do not have the armor necessary to hold off 960 centimeter phases, which means at fairly safe distances, we can just pick these apart. Battlefield Unity. I think we're going to call that mission accomplished. Orbital dominance of the little asteroid secure, which means it's time to send in the Marines. 2 alien ships escaped, 6 exotics captured, no losses on our side, 16 on theirs. And with another battle won, and the United States of North America reaching sustainability level 10, meaning it is now making negative emissions overall, I think that's where we're going to chop the episode. Next time, I think we're going to have a number of elements on our agenda. In terms of Earth, I think time is running out for a third faction. Because I have noticed, and I've been trying to figure out how intelligence leaks were coming through, one element that has occurred to me is the Academy is intelligence sharing with both the Servants and the Protectorate while doing none of their anti-Hydra objectives. And they are now sitting on a number of nations that, if we're going to bring emissions globally down to 0 and consolidate our power even more, using things like the juicy 25 mission control in Indonesia or the 46 in the European Union, it might be time for those who sympathise with the alien sympathisers to potentially go into our sites. Anyway, a lot to do on Earth next episode. And then in space, I'm considering a bit of a pincer manoeuvre. We control a lot of territory in the inner solar system, and we control Saturn. We have shipyards coming online in both, and Battlefleet Unity is in pretty good shape. So what we could potentially do is build some large ships at Saturn, launch Battlefleet Unity around the same time, and if we structure it appropriately, arrive in the Jovian system the same time. The reason the Jovian system is a natural target is because after we kick them out of Saturn and some of the asteroid belt, this is where the aliens are absolutely spamming mines. We have established a significant economic lead, partly because we can scale our mining bonuses much more aggressively than the aliens can. A lot of these sites are not yet complete. I think Ganymede is being mined in 3 places. Callisto is being mined in 5 places. So there's a lot of alien economic activity that is coming online in this system that will enable them to rebuild their fleet, especially when they get access to their new technologies. The Tier 3 alien weapons, I believe, will unlock in 2042. So the SEAL clubbing relationship we currently have in terms of our latest technology, that's going to reverse again if they're still able to build a lot of ships by that time. I don't want that to happen. And so next episode, let's talk about late game ship design. Let's talk about potentially unifying the Earth to an even greater extent. And let's talk about a return to Jupiter. See you then.